everyone, it's Allison. Thanks for joining me on my YouTube channel. Today I made 3 cards for you, 3 super cute cards using some Christmas critters from Scrappy Tales. These are part of their new Christmas party collection, and here are the 3 cards that I have made. And obviously they're all Christmas themed, or winter themed really. And we're going to start with the card in the middle with those cute little penguins. Now here are the sets we're going to be using today. I'm going to introduce the one on the right in a little bit for the next card, but the one on the left is the Layering Penguin Duo. And interestingly, I believe these dies are based off of this pattern paper from a previous release. This is one of the sheets from that pad of paper, the Christmas in July pad. And I'll show you how those penguins match up when the card is finished. But when I get a set of layering dies like this, well, first of all, you see all the little pieces on the left that I had removed from the inside of the larger pieces. That's just how the dies usually come. You know, manufacturers put the little pieces inside of the big pieces. But I like to cut it out of white cardstock first. And that just lets me get a lay of the land and understand how things layer up before I decide whether or not I'm going to cut it out of colored cardstock, or maybe I'm just going to color my white cardstock. So here I'm just kind of figuring out how the pieces go together, and you can see on this piece I had forgotten to remove those little tiny dies from inside. It's no big deal, but I'm going to make sure that I remove them now so that when I do cut them out for real, I don't have that problem again. So here are, the big pieces for the penguins. And now that I have kind of figured out what everything is and where it goes, I can cut it out of colored cardstock. Now again, I could have just used markers or inks to color my white cardstock, but I have so many scraps of colored cardstock, it's not even funny, so I like to use it up. But I will use those white pieces that I cut out originally. And I'm just going to use a black marker on the sides of these big white pieces because I'm going to layer them with the black pieces that I had just cut out. And I want it to look like I've layered 2 black pieces together. So really easy. I'm just running a black marker along the edges. And I like to stack my die cuts at least two pieces of cardstock. It just gives them more stability, and it makes them pop off the card a little bit more. So here you can see my penguin now looks like it's just 2 pieces of black cardstock layered together. And now I can start piecing him together. So I have his little white body or belly, and he's already looking cute. And now I can put the hat on, the little Christmas hat. And when I usually bring a white piece of cardstock below when I'm gluing these on, just to make sure I'm getting the layers on even. Just because of my black craft mat, it's hard sometimes to see if I am lining things up when there are dark colors of cardstock. So here's the little nose, beak, whatever a penguin has, and his little eyes. And I'm using my embellishment wand, which comes in so handy for these teeny tiny little pieces. And I had put the tiny pieces off to the side on top of a white piece of cardstock just so I wouldn't lose them, because I will lose anything if you give me the opportunity. All right, for the cheeks, I am going to just color them with a marker, and I'll glue those on. Those cheeks cut out with a couple other things, so it just wasn't worth the time to cut them out separately from pink cardstock. And look how cute he is. So then I'm going to put the little white pom-pom on the end of his hat. Now for the feet, I am going to double these up. So I have cut the feet out of white cardstock, which I'm going to put on there now. And then once those are on, I will come in and glue the yellow feet on there. And then this little cutie is going to be all done. So just had to figure out which foot was which. And you know, this penguin, you can see, went together really easily. All right, so there he is. Isn't he cute? Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next penguin, and I'm going to start with his face first because there's little indentations on the black piece of where everything goes, and I just want to make sure that the top of everything is aligned. If anything goes off a little bit, I don't want it to be off on the top. So now I'm gluing on the little scarf, and you'll see I make a little bit of an adjustment when I put on the rest of his body here. So I want the bottom part to really match up with that scarf. So I'm just going to lift the bottom of that scarf a little bit so that I can, you know, squeeze those two parts together really tight so that it's a solid white. So there we go. And I'm going to put on his little eyes as well. And again, come in with my embellishment wand. So this embellishment wand is from Studio Katya. I've been using it a long time and I'm really happy with it, but I know there's a lot of embellishment wands on the market. All right, so now I'm coming in with the scarf. And I'm going to make this scarf my own, and you'll see what I'm going to do. There's little squiggles that there's a die cut for all the little squiggles to put on the scarf. And before I finish the scarf, I'm just going to put on the feet. But the squiggles that cut out, I was a little confused at first, but only because I am doubling up the middle part of the scarf. So I ended up having to cut out a couple extra little squiggles for the scarf. So you'll see what I'm doing right here. I cut out part of a scarf, and now I'm just going to cut out this vertical piece. I want the vertical part of the scarf to have dimension. You know, if you tied a scarf yourself, that's the part that would be, you know, kind of bulky. So not only am I going to do that, now I'm cutting just a little strip of scrap pink paper, and I'm going to glue that onto that little vertical piece of the scarf. So now I've really created some extra dimension. And on the bottom of the scarf, I am going to just take a white gel pen and I'm going to add, you know, like little tassel marks. I believe there is a little die in the set that makes the end of that scarf. I didn't use that. Okay, so here, these are the extra parts. Well, I cut out two of these extra big squiggles. All right, so here is the pattern paper, and I just want to zoom in. So here's how these penguins match the pattern paper, and isn't that adorable? This is a 5x7 card. I put this pattern paper on a black card base, and then I have a smaller panel of white cardstock that I put onto some black paper just to have a little bit of a trim. And I also replaced that bigger penguin scarf with a lighter pink scarf. I just thought it matched up better. So I have these little snowflakes. This is the snowflake spinner set. And by the way, that spinner set is an add-on for a snow globe pop-up card. Scrappy Tales has so many fun pop-up dies. My sentiment comes from the Christmas postcards and tags set. There are matching dies for this stamp set, and it's a huge stamp set. I love it. Now for my panel, I have put some thin foam tape. This is the Big Mama foam tape roll from Simon Says Stamp, and I love it for just giving a slight pop of dimension. It's pretty thin foam tape, but I love it for popping up panels on cards. So I'm gluing my little snowflakes, and obviously I just used the small snowflakes from that die set that I showed you. And the snowflakes I put on there because if you see on the pattern paper, there are snowflakes on the pattern paper. So, you know, I just thought it would be cute to tie this whole thing in with that paper. So I'm just gluing everything on. Now, for the sentiment, so I did white heat emboss this on black paper, and then I cut it out with the matching die. And I wanted to sit on top of a snowflake. But the snowflake wasn't really big enough. It wasn't really doing what I wanted it to do. So I am going to make my own snowflake. I'm just going to fake it. So at first I cut the snowflake in half, and then you'll see that I will cut a couple other pieces off. And in the end, it's going to look a little wonky. But I don't think it's very noticeable. But I wanted my sentiment to be on top of the snowflake, and it just, you know, it wasn't the size I wanted. So that's the fun of die cutting, right? All right, I'm adding some embellishments. This is the Holly Jolly embellishment mix. There are a ton of embellishments on the Scrappy Tales website. And I mean a ton, and they're a great price point, so definitely check them out. Oh, and you can see I had added this extra little snowflake there so that I could add a little tiny gemstone. I wanted 3 gemstones. So here is the final card, and again, I just love how these little penguins look exactly like the ones on the paper. All right, here is the second die set we're going to use today, the Penguin and Polar Bear add-on. And it's called an add-on because this is an add-on set for the fun pumpkin pop-up card that came out in the Halloween release this year from Scrappy Tales. And I am going to use this adorable hat. Now I have these flock transfer sheets from ThermaWeb, and they have a velvety texture. You can use them with stencils if you have deco foil transfer gel. That's really fun. But they die cut beautifully. So I thought it would be fun to use flock for my hat just to make a warm, fuzzy hat. And what I'm doing right now with my craft pick is there's little details on the hat, and I'm just trying to emphasize the holes that the pattern creates because I'm going to put a white piece of paper behind this hat, and so I want the texture of this design to show through. You could create a striped hat. You'll see that part of the hat kind of has cut lines, and you'll see that closer in a second. So here are the cut lines I'm talking about, these horizontal lines. What I'm doing right now is I'm taking my fingernail. I actually have a fingernail in this video. I don't always. I'm scraping the edge of these horizontal cut lines. And what that's doing is it's scraping off some of the fuzz of the flock. And that's going to emphasize, again, the pattern that the die creates. And I believe these cut lines are here so that you can easily create a striped hat. Like you could easily cut along those striped lines and in 2 different colors and make a striped hat if you want. So here's the white piece that I had just fussy cut, and I'm gluing it behind there. And so now you can see the white showing through, and you can just see the great texture in that hat. Now I'm adding the little pom-poms that I cut out in green flock. And I believe the colors of flock that I used today are not available anymore, but I'm going to put a link below to all the flock transfer sheets on the ThermaWeb website. There's still a lot of great colors available, and I love using flock. I think it's so fun, especially when you stencil with it. It's really cool. All right, so now I have the little bear face, and I have cut this out in a gray cardstock, and I'm going to double up the nose just to give the nose a little bit of dimension. And then glue on the mouth. And there is one die in the set that creates all the facial features for the bear, and there it is right here. So this die cuts out that big middle piece and then the eyes and the cheeks. And there is a separate die that cuts out the nose and the mouth. And so now I have an A2 white card base that I have covered with plaid cardstock. And I have a panel here of white cardstock that I have a pink border around it. And I'm going to just put my bear on here. But before I do that, and before I forget, I'm going to stamp a sentiment onto this white panel. And for my sentiment today, I am using a stamp from, it's a Momma elephant stamp set called Fuzzy Hugs. And I thought the warm holiday hugs went with the fuzzy warm hat and the bear. I just thought it would be a cute sentiment to use. So, by the way, this panel that I'm gluing on is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4 inches. I really wanted a nice border of that plaid paper to show. And I'm going to start by gluing the main piece of the bear's face on here. And the eye is not glued down. I was just using that as a placeholder. So now I'm going to take the negative piece of that die that I showed you that cuts out the bear's facial features. And I'm just using it for placement purposes so that I can glue the eyes and the cheeks in there. Now you'll see that this piece of paper is brown. I had initially thought I was going to make a brown bear, but then I decided it's winter. Let's make a polar bear. And I thought it would be cute to have this polar bear face on the white cardstock, but it obviously doesn't have a defined face or head, but I think it's pretty obvious that it's a bear, and I just kind of thought it was a cute way to do this. So here go the cheeks, and the cheeks and the eyes I just colored with markers. I had cut it out of white cardstock, and there's a little hat. So I'll go ahead and glue that on, and this card will be done, and I just think it's so sweet. Now normally in the samples that I've seen of this die set, this hat usually goes with the penguin. And so I thought it was fun to mix things up and have this hat go with the polar bear or the bear. So here's the card. And now I have my last card. I made this off camera. I apologize for that. But I obviously used the other hat from the die set for this card. And here's that other hat. And this is really easy. There's a die for the little squiggles. There's a die for that top stripe. There's a die for the rim of the cap. And that little die cuts out those 4 little dots. And I didn't show it, but there's obviously a die for the ball on the top of the cap. So these little snowflake embellishments come from this penguins playing in the snow mix. Again, this is from Scrappy Tales. And I'm going to try to zoom in on this little penguin. I think my camera was focused on my other hand, so I apologize, but it's the cutest little clay penguin ever. All right, so these are the mixed holiday greetings. This is a stamp set from Momma Elephant, and that's what I used for this card. And speaking of Momma Elephant, this is that other set that I'd used for the previous card, that warm holiday hugs sentiment. So here is the final card, and I love those little white clay snowflakes on there. I think they're so cute. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all of you. And if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.